All right. Well, looks to be okay. Centered. Now I am centered. Maybe I should put it upon something. That's weird. When the truth is found to be lies. No, that's even weirder. Because that's not going to work. I'll just do it down here. All right. That's all right. Okay. Looks like I'm live. I really hope so. Yeah, streaming live on Facebook. I'm still learning. How's everyone doing today? It's Mandy with Ecstatic Astrology, here to talk to you about the full moon that's happening tomorrow night at about 11:36 p.m. And that's in Birmingham, Alabama, Central Time. So it's still Friday the 13th during the full moon, but I really don't. We'll talk about significance. In fact, that's where I want to start. Significance of all of the superstition, belief. It's an appropriate time to talk about it, especially with the astrology going on. I'll explain that in a minute. But what I want to say is, I get a lot of pushback about how much stock people should put into astrology. And I'll probably go over this every video, but I think it bears repeating that the way I practice astrology is not so much like the planets don't make you do anything. That's not how it is. I think it's the framing up of that needs to kind of flip around. So instead of looking at it like, oh, the full moon's making things happen, it's more like it's reflecting the energy. So, gosh, in ancient astrology, what happened was archetypes got assigned to what was going on in the sky. So if, Venus appeared bright in the sky and something was happening down on Earth, those two things got linked. And I think that that's, something that's deep inside our DNA. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time outside now. I wish we did, looking at the stars and gazing at them, but I still think that it's reflective of a pattern. That's what I think. Just like Monday, you go to work and everyone looks at Monday on a calendar and, it means whatever it means to you. That's what I'm looking at here. Like, And I think that you can look into the future and almost like weather forecast, you know, the energies and how it's going to feel and all of that stuff. But, you know, really it helps to be in the now, really look at what's going on around you, and you may find a pattern. And I think that's natural for humans and not a bad thing. I mean, if it helps you inspect your life, every area of it, you know, how you feel about your home, how you feel about your finances, how you feel about your relationship, how you feel about your work, you know, these things bear examining. If you examine these things and your feelings about them, and I just think that you can be more successful at life if you just take time to sit and think. It's the same principle as the Myers-Briggs or Enneagram or, you know, things like that. You can really gain a lot of ground in reality when you're examining yourself. And that's exactly what's going on here with astrology. And then taking out to that to a collective sort of idea, examining what's going on around you and what the world looks like and your relationship to it. So that's why I love astrology. I can get woo-woo with it. I mean, I think intuition is involved, and I think that that's not something, you know, people really use a lot or even think about a lot. But even science uses intuition. There's a still small voice in everyone that says, hey, there's more to the cell. There's more to the atom, you know, go smaller. What's a quark? You know, that spark of understanding and curiosity and the relationship between those is in everyone doing anything. So yeah, I do like to let it go beyond science into, you know, what people might look at as pseudoscience. I look at as just the unknowable thing that this is. I mean, we don't know what consciousness is yet. So how can you be so arrogant to say that we know that that's the wrong thing to do? Intuition is important. Your spirit is important. Your feelings are important. When the hair stands up on your arm and you get goosebumps, that's important. And not because you're cold. I'm talking when you feel a feeling, you know, it's electricity. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I just needed to get that out because I feel like people don't really understand. They think I'm going, ooh, you know, Mercury's in retrograde and it's going to do this to you. No. It's what can I look at as far as the archetypes go, and what did the archetypes over thousands of years develop into? And do I feel that? Do I feel an affinity with it? Is it helping me examine my own life? And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So Friday the 13th, that's where I started, right? Ooh. I mean, there's history there. It's like, I think the Knights Templar, something happened, blah, blah, blah. So if Friday the 13th means something to you, whatever it means, that's usually how it will show up in your life. I'm not really afraid of 13. I like numerology and all that. So 13 doesn't bother me. But it is going to be a full moon on Friday the 13th. Now I can take a deep breath and show you the chart. Boom. The astrology chart. I get nerdy. I mean, it's a lot of geometry. And it probably looks really confusing to everyone. It still confuses me sometimes. It's a lot. But I still think it's important to show the astrology chart while I'm talking about it, because I have a basis for what I'm talking about. You know, I get to show you that. And that's important to me. Also, teaching a little bit, I think that if you can have the knowledge of these archetypes in your mind, this is very much a Joseph Campbell thing, you know, then you can really examine it in your own life and in yourself. So this is the chart for, let me make sure, chart for now. And the important thing is the moon is already in Pisces, and that's where the full moon will be tomorrow night. So what is a full moon? A full moon is the sun opposite the moon. And so it's already beginning. As you can see, the sun's over here, the moon's over here. And when the moon moves into the sign that it's going to be full or new at, that's when I tend to like to record my videos, because I feel like the energy is starting to build especially when it's in the same sign, even though it's not exact until tomorrow night. So what does a full moon mean? The sun is shining its light as brightly as possible on the moon. There is no shadow, and we can see it. So archetypes, the moon represents our emotions and security, needs for security, where we find security. It's our soul. It is, it's the pit of your belly. You know, Cancer, which is what the moon rules the pit of your stomach. So when you feel a feeling in the pit of your stomach, that's a very moon thing. The sun is your self-expression and your identity. And then, of course, collectively, it means that as well, how other people identify with themselves. So the sun is in Virgo, which is opposite of Pisces. That's why the moon, it's a full moon in Pisces. This is interesting because there are so many other planets in Virgo, and I did a video for the new moon about it because I feel like this is such a time of being able to really build our lives the way we want to. Why do I say that? Because it's Earth. Virgo is an Earth sign. We have a lot of Earth going on. Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node are in Capricorn. Uranus is in Taurus. Those things confuse people. I've realized that. They start to shut their brains off whenever I start saying the names of all these because it sounds like a lot. But what we really need to understand is there's a lot of Earth going on. That's the simplest way to describe it. And Earth is, it deals with physical reality. Other elements, fire deals with creativity and self-expression. Water deals with emotions. And air is intellectual. And that's just obviously me distilling it down to one keyword per element. It's much bigger than that. But you can kind of grasp that idea. So if Earth is physical reality and the way we build things and the way we structure our lives, and the finer details of our lives, that's really what we're talking about with Virgo. Because Virgo is mutable Earth. So it's like the dust. And the small particles are really what forms things like brick and cement. They have to crush rock, and that's what it gets compacted and put together. So this is kind of what's going on this month with it's the crushing of the rock, and making sure we've got the dust off of everything. So it's the fine tuning of our lives. And then the other earth elements in play are Capricorn, which is our rules and structures. It is the building of the structures. You know, it's the using the brick material. And then Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is fixed earth. That is what we're building on. That is the ground. That is our bodies. That is what we value. Having Uranus there, though, is kind of flipping the script a little bit. So that brings me to this very moment, because the moon in Pisces is connected to Uranus and Taurus. And that's right now. And it is coming to be exact by 5 p.m., I think. And the moon in Pisces is letting go. It's opposite of this Virgo, crushed, fine-tuning, detail-oriented earth. Pisces is fog. So as you can see, both of these things kind of float over the earth. I like that. I mean, even the dust kind of floats in the air, the dust of Virgo. And then the fog of Pisces is right on top of the earth, you know? And then, so the moon is connecting to, yeah, sorry, I get really involved in my metaphors and pictures and my imagination and stuff. This is very creative for me. The moon connecting to Uranus is like a realization. This is kind of spacey, honestly. Pisces is notorious for being spacey territory. But it sextiles to Uranus here, and it's like the realization of something. Now, what that means for you, I don't know, but it's a spiritual realization that you want to change something fundamental about your life, or that your values have fundamentally changed. And it's almost like a spiritual message, like, hey, really take a look. You have really shifted as a person over the last whatever, and your values are here. And it's important for you to realize that on a subconscious level, bringing that to the surface a little bit. But yeah, realization, spiritual messages. realizations. That's what this is. And that's active right now. And that's building up to this full moon. And so then it connects with Saturn on its way to being full. Let me see that, what time that is. That's in the morning. The moon connects with Saturn. So it's like, hey, you know, that realization you had, let's make it a spiritual endeavor to set our parameters, to really build the reality that makes us feel secure in the most spiritual sense, in the most subconscious sense, you know? But yeah, that came to me earlier too. Parameters is a big deal for this. The divine message of a new law for ourselves. Like this is like Moses receiving the 10 Commandments. That's kind of how I look at this full moon. But it's for you in your life, if you can apply that to your life. You know, what new divine law are you about to live by? And there's another thing going on. The moon is square to Jupiter in Sagittarius. This is changing beliefs because of a spiritual message, you know? So it very much is, I guess, woo-woo. It's a woo-woo energy. But then Earth yanks it back down, and it's like you can't have one without the other. You have to ground yourself. You have to see life for what it is. You can have your dreams. And in fact, this is like shining a light onto your dreams. And the best light to shine into the fog, by the way, is low yellow light. So with the connections to Uranus and Saturn, this full moon is like figuring out what light flashlight you need, what color light you need to see best through the fog, you know? So then we move on to the actual full moon, which is at 11:36 p.m. Yeah, there we are. And as you can see, the moon touched both Uranus and Saturn on the way to being full. So it's like nodding, you know, I look at these things like a computer program. It's like the moon goes, new idea when it touches Uranus. And then it looks at Saturn and goes, oh, I can make this happen. I really can. I just need to zero in. And then it builds up to this full moon and it looks at Virgo, and Virgo's like, yeah, we need to fine tune some things to make this happen. Another interesting thing is all the planets here. Venus and Mercury during the full moon will be at the last degrees of Virgo. And that's our mind and what we love. And it's like, yeah, we can make these lists and we can draw these blueprints. And you're really seeing the way that this can move forward, these dreams, these hopes, these wishes. So another cool thing is if you look back 6 months ago, that was the new moon in Pisces. And that's the beginning of this cycle that we're culminating right now. And you can look back and go, wow, either I'm making progress toward the goal that I've had for 6 months, or you can maybe see how you're being supported in it. For instance, I wrote a new moon intention 6 months ago for this very time. And one of the things I said was I wanted my kids to be happy and successful in school and like be fulfilled in it. And I realized that a few things have happened this year that have, you know, it's like you can't get out of this without doing the work. You know, your dreams don't just come and manifest themselves. They're like, oh, we're here. Sometimes they do. But oftentimes they require your active participation. And that's exactly the energy of this full moon, is active participation in making your dreams come true. So this very morning, I had that happen. My little girl forgot her saxophone, and she's in band. And so I had to get out to this fight traffic, go to school and bring her saxophone. And it required my work. I want her to be happy and successful at school and really be fulfilled in it. And she's really enjoying band. She just forgot her saxophone this morning. I had to do some work. So I just chuckled a little bit when I read it back over my new moon intentions, because that's the kind of thing that happens. So I encourage you to look 6 months ago from right now. What date was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It would have been March or February. Where are you? I can't find the exact date. Just look up the new moon in Pisces for 2019. You'll get the date. That's the date that I set intentions for this full moon. And it's an interesting date to look at because you can really take stock over the last 6 months. And that was the beginning of this whole spiel that I had, with really getting on top of your life and seeing the work you have to do. So where the full moon happens in your chart specifically is going to be an area of life that you're going to have these realizations and these spiritual messages. And if you're uncomfortable with the word spiritual, a lot of people are. And I think I want to reach as many people with this and make it as accessible as possible, because I think it can help no matter where you are with spirituality or woo-woo-ness or whatever. I think that you could really look at it in any light that you want to and still gain some good perspective from it. So wherever this full moon is happening in your chart is going to be the area that you're having these still small voice messages come in and be like, this is sort of the new reality that we're facing in our own lives, and realizing the work we have to put into it to get there. And, realizing the fact that we have to put in work is not exactly the most fun thing. And Pisces likes to let go. So you may be grappling is the word I'm looking for, with some escapist tendencies, like, I don't want to do that. It's a lot like walking into a really, really messy room and just being overwhelmed with the mess and going, you know what, I'll do it later. But this is a cumulative energy. You can go do a little bit at a time. And I think that's the important message with Virgo. Mars is in Virgo. Venus and Mercury are in Virgo. And it's like, look, we can just have a piece of this work and do that today. And the little work that we put in towards our goals are going to have a cumulative effect. Like, just because you don't have the deadline that you want, this, that's the Jupiter actually square this Mars too, is you got to get there fast. You got to do it perfectly and da-da-da-da-da. That's really active right now too. And that's something we want to sort of temper with the spiritual practices, meditation, self-care, writing down the messages you're getting, writing down the ideas you're getting, writing down the dreams you're having, which are very active right now. Pisces rules dreams. I've had some bizarre ones, and of course the moon trines Uranus this evening. So to me, I'm looking at this evening leading up to the full moon a little bit like weird. Like, you might have some weird stuff go on, or like what, or like kind of spacey. Uranus does rule aliens, but it is in Taurus, so those two things kind of temper each other. But that's this evening. But yeah, dreams are really off the chain right now. Kind of scary. I've had some scary dreams, I'll admit. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, well, I did want to look at the future a little bit as well, because after the full moon tomorrow, before I look at the future, this is what I wanted to say. It could have felt like a really crazy week leading up to this. In fact, I felt the effects of this full moon, or felt, however you want to frame that up and say it, the energy building up significantly during the week, which a lot of times that doesn't happen. I mean, you might feel it a day or two before the full moon, but I was like, let me look in the astrology. Why have I felt this way? Why does it seem like just energy draining? Everything's weird. Maybe people are getting sick. A lot of shocking energies happening, confusion. And that's because not only has every planet trined Uranus and is now separating from that this month on the way up to this whole month, but everything has opposed Neptune coming up to this. So like, we can look and say on last Friday, September 6th, Mercury opposed Neptune, and that's spacey. Our minds can be a little confused, like we really want to do this work. We really want to hone in on the things that we're doing, but Neptune is opposing it, going, I'm just here to confuse you and make you distracted. Well, the same thing happened Monday and Tuesday, I'll say, and Wednesday even. So like this whole week, the sun has really opposed Neptune. And that's another, it's like your self-expression is kind of like we're looking at who we are as people, and Neptune's over here like, let go of that. Let go of your goals. Let go for a minute. That's the dichotomy of this. And it can manifest itself. Virgo rules health. Neptune can rule health as well. And Neptune kind of rules dis-ease, really, disillusionment. So does Pisces. So, I mean, you can almost even feel unwell, or like it's a Mercury retrograde. That's when Mercury opposed it, what it felt like. And then a sun opposite Neptune is just kind of like, everything's just feeling strange. Like I wanted to be in a dark room. I've just felt like tired too. And it's kind of a weird energy leading up to this full moon. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Now I wanted to also talk about future. All right, take a deep breath. Hopefully you can go back and watch this if I've gone too fast. But Saturday, Venus and Mercury are together, and they are moving into Libra. On the same day, Mars opposes Neptune, and the moon is still in Pisces at this time. So this full moon has like bookends, like what? It's crazy to me. It's like very strong lead up to this full moon, very strong come down, because Mars opposite Neptune Mars is our will and our passion. It's very much like the sun opposite Neptune, except Mars is also our ego and our direction. And we want to get somewhere, and we want to do it perfectly with Mars and Virgo. We want to make the list and make it happen just right. So to have that opposite Neptune's basically watering that energy down, like, but you don't have the energy for it, sweetheart. That's kind of what Neptune's doing, like, but I'm going to make you have so many dreams and not sleep so well that you won't have the energy to do it tomorrow. So it's better to stay on top of the energy and make sure you're getting a good night's rest. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, taking your vitamins. That sounds real mom-like, but hey, the North Node's of Cancer, can't help it. But yeah, you need to really like stay on top of your stuff right now, your health, your mental health too. Like really take the time. Take 20 minutes if you can of quiet time or meditation or prayer or writing, or even if you got like earlier, I just stood out on the back porch and looked, just kind of spaced out for about 20 minutes and thought, and then I read my new moon intentions. And taking quiet time, if you can, make that happen, and you should, it should be a priority, especially over the next couple of days. This weekend, watch for, drugs and alcohol. Neptune rules addiction. So this full moon, like I was talking to someone, a doctor, and I was like, the ER may be real crazy on this full moon, because that's the energy. People want to escape. There's so much knowledge that we have to do all this work. It can be overcritical. We can feel guilty. And so people escape instead of really taking time to think about it in this very abstract way and let your mind go, and then come back and make practical lists and practical goals to accomplish this. That's the high vibe. The low vibe is, oh my God, there's so much to do, and I want to do all this, and I want to do it perfectly, and now I feel guilty because I'm not making it happen like I want to, and so I'm going to go just get wasted. Temper yourself this full moon. It happens on a weekend. Really just like try to be as mindful as you can about escapist tendencies. Then Saturday we have Mercury and Venus both move into Libra. I think that'll feel better. Although that has a lot to do with relationships, and there's still some Virgo going on, still this full moon energy. So you might, kind of start to look at the relationships in your life starting Saturday. Issues of injustice and fairness come up, and our minds are going to be on it, and our hearts are going to be on it with this energy. But The other important date that I'm looking at is September 18th. There's two things happening that day, and that's next Wednesday. And that is Saturn goes direct. Saturn's been retrograde. It's a lot of self-reflection on if on our own rules for ourselves and on the structures we have in our life, our career. You know, that's been a lot of internal work. Well, now Saturn going direct is like, okay, let's move forward with this in our life and in reality. So on that day, other things are also happening. There's a Grand Trine in Earth with the moon involved. Yeah, so the moon, Mars, and Pluto will all be exactly trining. And this is a brief energy because the moon moves pretty fast, but it's still a palpable one. And that's Wednesday as well. And it's it's a kind of a critical, like, seeing the big picture about how our realities are really actually shifting. This could be power plays because Pluto and Mars both rule like power plays. And it's just, I think Wednesday is going to be an interesting day. Another thing that's exact on Wednesday going into Thursday is Jupiter is squaring Neptune for the last time, and that's really coming into an exact degree. In fact, it comes into the exact degree on Friday, I think, or Saturday. So the Jupiter-Neptune square has been going on all year. The first square was in January, then we had one in June, and now this is going to be the last one coming up this next weekend. And that has a lot to do with where our beliefs, long-held beliefs have been held. Even the long-term goals we've had. Sagittarius is about optimism, and it's kind of where you're shooting your arrow. You know, that's Sagittarius, the archer. And Neptune is the spiritual messages you get. And those things are challenging each other right now. Like, where do I want to go? What do I really believe about this reality? I've always believed this, and now I'm getting these messages from the collective, like, you know, new ways of relating to myself and my spirituality as well. And that's changing and challenging my long-held beliefs. And that is exact next weekend. So this is some heavy kind of energy, you know, like we can really be shifting big time over this next week. After the realization of the full moon, you know, the spiritual, deep spiritual realizations, then we move into a Grand Trine in Earth, and then the Jupiter-Neptune square. And it's like, whoa, reality shift, you know? So just be aware of that. And that's why it's important for the full moon to not get too overly like, I haven't gotten on top of my stuff like I wanted. You can be getting some of those messages like you're not doing enough, you're not doing it quick enough. And beware, because while there is usefulness in that motivation, it can be self-defeating, very self-defeating. I've gotten those messages like, oh, you're not doing it perfectly, Mandy. It's very self-judgmental, you know. But hopefully the Neptune square to Jupiter will be like, hey, you know, like let's tend to our spirit a little more, and that will help us reach our goals. Neptune is sextile Saturn, you know, and especially when Saturn goes direct, that's going to be exact. And oh gosh, let's see, that energy is like, hey, if we tend to our spirit, our goals are much more likely to be met. That's coming up in November, the exact square, but it's building. So that's what I want to say. I think my advice is don't be too hard on yourself. If you're feeling tired, that pattern is reflected in the sky. And if you're feeling confused, it's okay. Go snap back into the Virgo, make your list, and then snap back into the Pisces and go into meditation and do both of those things together. And watch your alcohol consumption. Don't do drugs that will kill you. Really take care of your body, rest, and contemplate. This is very contemplative. Venus and Mercury together in Virgo is really likes to think, you know, to examine. And I mean, kind of revel in that, but don't examine to the point of making yourself feel guilty for things. This is bringing it to the surface so that you can act on it later or now, but, you know, in chunks that you can bite off. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the things that show up, you know, like the hawk flies in front of you. Those are synchronicities. Those are things to watch out for. If you see the same weird word over and over, I love those things. Carl Jung talked about synchronicity a lot. And yeah, so I hope this helped at all. I hope I didn't confuse people too much with my jargon. I love feedback. So, I mean, I'm always trying to perfect myself. I take continuing education classes. I am excited because I'm going to a conference in May in Costa Rica called Astrology Rising with New Paradigm. And that's going to be really, really awesome. It's basically intensive classes for 5 days and discussion. And I do that constantly, and I'm always trying to improve myself because what I ultimately want to do with this is serve humanity and really serve people and show them how it's helped me. It's not going to be for everyone, but for those who it is for, if I can do it better for you, please let me know. And any questions, send them my way. I love doing this, and I love talking to you guys. I hope this worked out. Oh, always, if you would like to know where this is happening for you in your chart or know more about, you know, how your personal chart's affected, hit me up for a session. I'm really affordable, and I've been doing this now for 2 years as far as like intensive sessions and readings. I've been studying this for about 6, but I've been practicing for a couple of years now, and I really am finding so much validation coming from clients and back at them as well. It's really going really well, and I'm enjoying it, and I would love to do it with you too. So ecstaticastrology.com or ecstaticastrology@gmail.com. I can do it over the computer. You can be anywhere in the country, and I sell gift certificates. So anyway, thank you so much. Have a great full moon. Don't let it scare you too much. Friday the 13th is what it is to you, but the full moon is all about connecting with our spirit, shining that light into the fog, figuring out where we're going, how to get there, what our spirit is, what direction our spirit's leading us really, and our dreams. Best of luck. Okay. Au revoir.